Hey, good morning or good afternoon, everyone. I figured I'd try something new with this T-SQL Tuesday summary blog post. I thought I'd create a little video here and try this out. Going to be really informal. I'm kind of just relaxed, going to talk about some of these things that I saw in the summary and tell you a little bit about my story about aging code. So just wanted to get started. I'm going to start here with Rob's post because he was one of the first ones. Of course, being in Australia gives that advantage to do that. I also wanted to, since we're talking about aging here and everything else. I hope Rob, you will let me apologize for this, but I figured I'd show some old pictures too. Hey, this was a long time ago. This was all the way back in 2010, I believe. So this was quite a long time ago. But I wanted to just say, age, Rob, you have aged perfectly. I want you to know that. So, anyways, what Rob talked about in his summary was a lot more about how important it is that we all understand that databases live, breathe, and change over time. It's very important that we go back and look at our code and look at different things and say, is that still important? Was this still out there? Are these things that need to be updated? It doesn't mean that we wrote code that was really, really bad right at the start. It just means that it might be something we have to test again in the future. So you have to keep going and keep doing more things around it. Okay, now let's jump over to Hugo's code and take a look at this. Hugo's post was all about, he started way back in 2013 with one of his projects, and he showed about how his project really kept going over time. He showed that he kept doing support for it over time, but at the same time, his code and logic still worked that whole time. It was really wonderful to see that, this thing that he created still functioned for a really, really long time. He just had to add support to it. And if you give time and effort into your systems, it makes it a lot better that you can use that all the time in the future. It supports itself so much better. Okay, now I'll go over to my good friend Steve. And Steve is the one that actually gave me a good idea for this topic and everything else. We were sitting down together. He said, hey, can we host T-SQL Tuesday? And I said, well, let's talk about aging. And we talked about it and we got this idea and we went with it. And I have to do this for Steve too, because I love the man to death. And I just wanted to show way back. There you go, Steve. SQL Server Central, early parties. He's talking about that all right now. Go out to the Voice of the DBA blog post or podcast and take a listen. This man has been instrumental in the community for a long time, so please give him that. So he talked a lot about the code that he first wrote, the string manipulation code that he wrote years and years ago, and how it could possibly be more efficient now. He could do some more efficient things with it, but it still held up for what it was all those years ago. I mentioned in my summary too that I have a date script that decades and decades ago I wrote that would just convert dates. Back in SQL Server, we always had day -7 and day -6 and all these different things. And what is the first day of the week and what is the last day of the week? So I kind of had just a date.sql file that I kept around. And anytime I went to a new company or something else, I could use that and just paste it right into wherever I was working. So a lot of times now with AI, you don't need that as much, but sometimes it's really good to keep that code around that you can keep using for years and years. Okay, let's go over Chad's now. Chad showed us, talked about a story that he created that really he showed that there was an opportunity out there in his organization to fill something in and provide that solution to somebody else. And that solution stuck around for a really long time. That's an important thing to keep in mind that you can sometimes provide solutions in all sorts of different places, and it's very valuable to the company. Always keep in mind what you can do for others. So then let's talk about Andy. Andy focused on um, one thing that I really liked about. Okay, so let's go into Andy now. And Andy really mentioned something at the very end of his post. I did read the entire post, but I really, really want to focus on the end of the post. It's not enough to make it work correctly, it needs to fail correctly too. Andy and I think a lot alike in these sort of things is that I believe that you learn a lot more from your failures than from your successes. So making sure that you can fail and learn how to fail and make sure that your code can fail and deal with failure is way more important than just making sure that it never gets a bug or never has a problem, because all code will have a problem. All databases will have a problem. It's the way of the world. You have to deal with it and get ready for it. So then we get into Deb the DBA, and Deb focused on how to keep the code from becoming legacy. So how do you keep your code up to date? How do you keep it running? How do you keep it, make sure that it doesn't really just fall by the wayside and you don't see it for 10 or 16 or 10 or 15 years? It's just there and you can just keep doing it. It's a way of keeping check on it and making sure that you're always making making progress on it. And stick to some standards. She met some great standards in here, guidelines to keep everything going. It's a great way to do it. I would definitely suggest the post and read through it. And now going to Todd, our final post at this. Todd and I think, might be soulmates. I know I've ran into Todd before at a few other places, but where he said, keep moving forward. I don't know how many people know I have a tattoo on my arm that says, keep moving forward. So it's really great that we kind of went through the same thing. I loved how that he really focused on best practices, good guidelines, and just keep moving. Don't focus on what happened in the past. Don't focus on the code that was gone years and years ago. Just focus on what you're doing moving forward and how you should keep going about that. All right. Now let's get to the last part of this, my own summary about how my code has aged. I didn't want to write up a specific post or anything about this, but I wanted to talk for a minute, a little bit about this, is that it's less about your code aging for me, and it's more about how have you learned from what you've done in the past and then applied that to what you're doing today. I'll tell a story is that I worked at a small startup. Well, it was kind of small, but it was a startup, and we were doing analysis, reporting analysis for phone systems. If you've ever worked with phone systems before, is that you can get a lot of data out of them. Every button you push, every IVR that you go down, every different path and everything you do, it's a lot of data. And what they wanted us to do was build a reporting system off of that data. Now, the data was vertically partitioned. If anybody knows key value pairs, lots and lots of rows, but not lots of columns. So we had to flip that data horizontally so that you could read it and put it into a reporting tool. And we built our reporting tool and everything else. So basically, what I'm saying is, I learned the original ideas of pivot and um, normalization and all of those techniques and ETL all through that process way back in the early 2000s when there wasn't a lot of great tools or anything out there to do that. There wasn't Databricks, there wasn't Snowflake, there wasn't Flink, there wasn't any of these things to do that work. So it was all done in SQL and SQL Server, and some of it was a little bit of code. The point is that I learned those techniques and those ideas and concepts, and they stuck with me for everything else that I did in the future. When somebody said to me, can you create a data warehouse to do this? I knew all the steps that were needed to be done to do it. I could change the code. I could use different methods now. I could use Databricks or something else, but I still understand the fundamentals of all of those things that have been done. So my aging of my code is definitely, the code itself has not aged. Like that code, I couldn't just run it today on a system and make it work exactly as it was. But the ideas and concepts and everything that I learned from that code 100% translate to what I know today and how I know to produce things today. And a lot of this is stuff that we run into that we've done before and we're doing again. And it's a repetition of those same things. So, anyways, I really hope that you've enjoyed this little T-SQL Tuesday summary. I hope to do some more of these in the future. Hopefully going to make them a little bit shorter, maybe a few longer, but I really hope I can do some more videos for like this in the future. Thank you for joining me, and I really appreciate it.